Hey there, before we get into the video, which is just a compilation of all of my classic Sonic reviews, I figured I'd let you know that the demo for Nova Rebellion, the game we've been working on for a while, is out now. The game's launch day is July 4th, and if you want to try out the game, well, link's in the description to the demo page. It's only on Windows now, but I'm working on getting other ports out as we speak. Well, enjoy the video!
Danita Stokes, president of HAG.
It's bad enough that Sega Genesis has the most 16-bit games, but this new Sonic the Hedgehog, oh, he really doth my doilies. They say he's incredibly fast. Well, what's the hurry, mister? And about his attitude. Smarty pants. Why can't it be more like that nice boy Mario? Oh! Little brat!
Now, get Sonic free when you buy a Sega Genesis system at its new price of $149.99.
I have an interesting history with Sonic the Hedgehog 1. As those who have watched my channel will know, but for newcomers, here's the context. Despite growing up in the 2010s, my main gaming console was a Sega Genesis, which was both a blessing and a curse. It was pretty fun interacting with all the kids my age back then, and when I asked them what they played, they'd say Call of Duty on the PlayStation 4 or something. Like that. Meanwhile, I would say, cool! I'm playing Phantasy Star 2 on the Sega Genesis. And they just looked at me like, wait, what? One big upside, though, was that one of my primary childhood games was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Okay, I know this review is about Sonic 1, but bear with me. It ties into how I got the game. See, I had a cartridge with 3 built-in games, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Naturally, Sonic 2 got the most playtime. But I did enjoy Sonic 1 and eventually beat it. However, I never found it quite as good as the sequel, Sonic 2. That said, I still think Sonic 1 is a great game and is worth playing and revisiting. I won't be delving much into its development history. You can easily find 100 videos breaking all that down. Instead, I'm focusing on its gameplay and my personal experience with it. Hopefully, this review sparks some discussion and maybe even converts a few new fans. So this is the Anti-Gamer Slayer of Centurion Dragon Studios, and this is why I like Sonic 1, and why I think it is awesome. Quick disclaimer, I won't recommend playing the original Genesis version like I did as a kid. Instead, I suggest picking up Sonic Forever or Sonic Origins. Personally, I think Sonic Origins is the better overall package, but Sonic Forever is still a solid option, especially with its mod support. Honestly, it's probably best to grab both. Sonic Origins supports the developers and includes Sonic 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, while the fan remake provides an enhanced experience. I'm playing Sonic Forever myself, which means I have access to both the Super Peel Out and the Spin Dash, making the gameplay even smoother. Without further ado, let's dive in. Since the game is relatively short, I'll be going over each zone individually and sharing my thoughts. There isn't much to break down other than gameplay, so let's get into it. First zone of Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, is Green Hill Zone. And really, what can I say about it that hasn't already been said? It's iconic. The music is instantly recognizable, the aesthetic is bright, and just awesome. And the level design gives players plenty of opportunity to build momentum, as Sonic 1 relies on you to build momentum to go fast. In the original version, there's no Spin Dash or Super Peel Out, but there is in Forever. The level's super easy and a ton of fun. Apparently the devs spent 6 months perfecting this zone, and it shows. They wanted the ideal first level, something that would capture the essence of Sonic, and they absolutely pulled it off. There are even moments of minor spectacle, like the iconic tunnel pipe in Act 1. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not sure if this applies to Sonic Origins, but I do know that in Sonic Forever, it includes elemental shields from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, if you turn them on. However, be warned, they basically break the game in certain areas. Green Hill Act 3 is a prime example. The The fire shield basically breaks the entire level because the level design was never intended to accommodate the abilities of the elemental shields. But it's still fun as all get out to do. Now we get to the second zone, Marble Zone. Originally, the second zone of the game was going to be Labyrinth Zone. However, as we'll discuss later, for very good reason, it was shoved to later in the game. Marble Zone is actually my absolute favorite zone in Sonic 1. I mean, everything from the Ancient Ruins aesthetic to the music, which I listen to all the time when programming. Just everything about the zone. It's awesome. Maybe it's just because I'm a sucker for Ancient Ruins. I know that's a very controversial take on Sonic 1. However, we can all agree, as Sonic fans, the Labyrinth Zone is way worse. And while some say this level doesn't have enough speed, I think Sonic doesn't have to be all about constant movement and momentum to be fun. Marble Zone has plenty of block puzzles, hidden areas sprinkled throughout, and enough variety to keep things engaging. It's actually the zone I revisit the most when using the level select in Sonic Forever, and is honestly just my favorite zone in the entire game. Solid 10 out of 10. Now we arrive at Spring Yard Zone, and yeah, this zone definitely feels like a precursor to Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2. Honestly, I would go a step further and say it's a prototype for Eggman Land. I've always imagined this zone as Eggman's first attempt at building an amusement park. Either A, he never got a chance to finish it because a certain spiky blue hedgehog showed up, or B, he realized springs weren't such a great idea and just left his mess behind. The zone itself is okay. I enjoyed it in the original version of the game because you can build up quite a bit of momentum, and you still can here. It's far from my favorite zone though. Nothing is ever gonna top Marble Zone for me. Still, jumping around on springing platforms and chaining momentum together is fun. There are a few annoying sections where you have to wait for these blocks to move, but like I said before, Sonic doesn't always have to be pure speed, so I don't mind it too much. Gives you a nice little breather. Oh, and I completely forgot to mention the bosses up to this point. And to be honest with you, there isn't much to say. They're all super easy. Looking at all these bosses other than the last one, I can't think of a single thing to say about them other than easy. The music here is decent, but nothing special. Alright. Moving on. Alright. Let's talk about Labyrinth Zone. I'm sure every Sonic fan, or at least those who have played Sonic 1, dread this part of the game. This zone is infamous, and without a doubt, it's the worst zone in all of classic Sonic. To be fair, the Forever remake does offer a bubble shield, letting you breathe underwater as long as you don't get hit. But even that can't save this zone. It's just a miserable experience all the way through. Want a list as to why Labyrinth Zone sucks? Here you go! You spend almost the entire level underwater, which means Sonic moves painfully slow and sluggish. You have a ridiculously short timer before you suffocate. If you don't stay near air bubbles, guess what? You're gonna drown. The level just drags on, and on, and on, forever! And the music? Oh my gosh, this music just gets on my nerves. The aesthetic is dull, the pacing is frustrating, and overall, this zone is just terrible. As a kid, this zone destroyed me. I remember facing the boss at the end, thinking I had hit him 8 times like every other boss in the game. Imagine my surprise when I finally reached the top and realized I didn't have to hit him 8 times. He just runs away. So yeah, that led to a whole lot of unnecessary deaths, because I kept trying to land as many hits as possible, only to get crushed by some dumb trap. Then eventually, I would run out of lives and have to restart the game. Though there is one thing I will show you guys, should you dare to try to attempt the zone. There is, through my years of playing this game, a shortcut in Act 1 that is going to save you so much frustration if you can pull it off. Now you're about to see it, but forewarning, you need to pull this off perfectly, and you only get one shot at this platform, so make it count. Now we get to Starlight Zone. Definitely a fan favorite, but it's not my favorite. It's a solid zone, and after the nightmare that is Labyrinth Zone, it's a very welcome change. But as far as being truly great, I wouldn't say that. The music doesn't really stand out to me, and while the gameplay is fine, it's nothing groundbreaking. And there are some cool gimmicks like the fans, but beyond that, it's just a level. I passed through it on my way to the end of the game, nothing too crazy. That said, I'll give credit where it's due. Starlight Zone's background is gorgeous. The level itself isn't overly long, which is another bonus. Overall, it's an easy zone, nothing too difficult, and it's definitely a step up from Labyrinth Zone. Not much else to say about it, so let's keep moving. And now we've reached the final zone, Scrap Brain Zone. And if Sonic 1 had a design philosophy for its final level, it was basically hazards. Hazards everywhere! It feels like Yuji Naka and his team sat down and thought, how do we make an awesome final level that pushes the players to their limits? And the answer? Just throw danger everywhere. Bottomless pits, electrolyte floors, fire traps, rotating platforms, and because, why not, those ridiculous bear-like enemies that toss projectiles at you. It's chaotic, it's brutal, it is definitely a final challenge. Oh, and the music slaps. Act 1 takes place in a dystopian mechanical wasteland. Then in Act 2, you move into the interior of the facility. One of the more interesting mechanics here is the spinning wheels that let you build up momentum as you are magnetically attached to them, which is a nice touch. And just when you think you're finally getting close to taking down Robotnik, he pulls his dirtiest trick yet. He sends you back to Labyrinth Zone. That's right, Scrap Brain Act 3 is essentially Labyrinth Zone Act 4, just with a different palette swap, as if 3 rounds of underwater torture wasn't enough. It should go without saying that Labyrinth Zone Act 4 sucks. However, for those who aren't in the mood for another round of Labyrinth Zone, which I'm pretty sure is everybody, here's a little secret. Outrun this platform here, and you'll take a shortcut that lets you skip most of the level. It still sucks, but it's a whole lot less painful. And after that, you're ready to take on the final challenge. And now we get to the final boss, and honestly, I didn't mention the other bosses because there wasn't much to talk about with them, and they were pitifully easy. But what even is this thing? I mean, it's just Robotnik hiding inside a piston-based contraption. But what was the logic behind this? Why does this thing exist? That said, it's still not a hard fight. As long as you know what you're doing, it's manageable. And for some extra satisfaction, you can actually land one last hit on Robotnik as he flees. Sweet, sweet revenge for sending me back to Labyrinth Zone, you fat fuck. After that, Sonic rushes back to his animal friends, and that's the end of the game. Sure, you can play the special stages, and in some of the remakes, you can even unlock Super Sonic. But in the original, they don't really serve much purpose other than getting a slightly better ending. And honestly, the special stages are just acid trips. I don't really bother with them. They're as hard as they look, and unless you're a hardcore gamer looking for a real challenge, just ignore them. All they do is get you some spitting looking flowers, weird, I don't know what they are, at the end of the game. So, that's Sonic 1. I know most people tend to forget this game exists, and I'm probably speaking into the void here as nobody watches my videos, but if you're wondering why I didn't go for a deep, in-depth analysis, that's because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to talk about games and highlight what I think is cool about them, and if something is awesome, I'll point it out. And I'll definitely be doing this for more games down the road, all the while continuing to build my studio, Centurion Dragons. So if you like this, consider subscribing and leaving a comment. And before I go, I just want to mention that Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was one of my earliest gaming experiences. And despite playing the sequels way more often, I still find myself coming back to this game occasionally. It may not be my favorite, but it's still part of gaming history. This is the Anti-Gamer Slayer, signing out.
Now, when you buy the Sega Genesis that comes with Sonic 1, you'll get Sonic 2 absolutely free. Sonic 2 handles stubborn stains, embarrassing bald spots, no problem. It even slices and dices, makes thousands of julienne fries. But wait, you can play it too. This free Sonic 2 is a $54.99 value. You get 2 Sonics for the price of 1. Sonic 2 fits easily into any tackle box. Made from a space-age polymer plastic for years of family fun, and pets love it too. Buy the Sega Genesis that comes with Sonic 1 and get Sonic 2 free. Act now. Wiener Dog Sweater sold separately.
For those of you who watched my Sonic 1 review, you already know I grew up with Sonic 1 and 2 as a kid. But if we're talking about sheer hours spent, Sonic 2 was the one I played the ever-loving heck out of. I loved this game as a kid, because it basically took everything Sonic 1 did and made it better. Better speed, better level design, and of course, Tails. This is easily one of my most played Genesis titles, right up there with Mortal Kombat, Golden Axe, and Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures. But we'll save those for another time. Now, the way this game was developed is actually pretty interesting. I'm not going to get into huge detail here, but what you need to know is after Sonic 1 became a massive success, Sega split the development team into 2 groups. Yuji Naka, lead programmer of Sonic 1, moved to the US to work on Sonic 2 at the Sega Technological Institute, while Naito Oshima, I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but you can look it up, the character designer of Sonic 1, stayed in Japan to direct Sonic CD. This led to 2 very different approaches to Sonic's gameplay. Sonic 2 focused on speed and momentum-based platforming, while CD introduced a time travel mechanic and way more exploration in the level design. The result was 2 games with very, very different vibes and gameplay. And while Sonic 2 has a story, it's not really necessary to know it to enjoy the game. You've got exactly 2 cutscenes in the entire game. No, I don't count Sky Chase because that is a level. All you need to know is that Dr. Robotnik, aka Dr. Eggman, is trapping animals to power his robots and building the Death Egg, an orbital space station of destruction. Sonic and Tails? They're here to stop him. This is early 90s, this was passable. And you wouldn't even get this in-game, you'd actually have to read the manual to get this story. There are tons of ways to play Sonic 2 nowadays. The Genesis version is still solid, however you can't save it. And there are way better options, like the mobile version. There's a bunch of compilations to have it, as well as the Sonic Origins collection, which I highly recommend. There's even Sonic 2 Absolute on PC, a fan remake that supports mods, which I highly recommend that version as well. It's awesome, and it's even the version I am using for this review. So without further ado, let me get into why Sonic 2 is freaking awesome. Before we jump in, depending on which version of Sonic 2 you're playing, you can pick Sonic, Tails, or both Sonic and Tails as a team-up. Some ports even add bonus characters like Knuckles and Amy. But for this review, I'm running through the game with Sonic and Tails as a team. That's just the way I prefer to play it. Now we get to the first zone of the game, Emerald Hill. And let me tell you, I've run through this way more times than I've ever gone through Green Hill. I love this zone. Back when I played the game on my original Genesis, you couldn't save your game, so if you lose all your lives, you had to restart the entire game over. So this would be the place where I'd stock up on them, so if I died, it wasn't as big as a deal. Like, literally 90% of the lives I would go through the game on came from this zone here. There are so many hidden secrets here, it's just crazy. The soundtrack, well, it's not the best in the game, but it does fit the vibe of the zone. The tropical island feel, the bright colors, it's just a good track overall. So like I said, there are many in this game I prefer over Emerald Hill. I can't stress enough how many hidden secrets and alternate pathways are in this zone. It's crazy. You think you're blazing through it on the fastest route, then you find a whole nother path that changes the whole way you approach the stage. The level design is just great, and even all these years later, I'm still discovering hidden secrets within it. Now we get to Dr. Robotnik, the first boss fight. And it's at the end of Act 2. Yep, 2 acts per zone instead of 3, like in Sonic 1. So what does Robotnik throw at us? A drill machine car. Why? Granted, this is not his stupidest contraption. We'll get to that when we talk about CD. No idea what he's drilling. Who knows? But this is the man with a 300 IQ, everyone, so I guess there's a reason somewhere. Maybe? Yeah, I can't think of one. Next zone. Next up, we have Chemical Plant Zone. First off, the music. This track is easily one of the best in the game. I'd probably say it's the third, maybe second best. Just listen to it for a second. It has that perfect mix of just funkiness and energy. This zone is all about speed. Pipes, hidden pathways. Just take one look at the map and you'll see how intricate it is. Sometimes you'll even end up outrunning the screen if you're not careful. But for all this fast-paced fun, there's actually this one spot where I got stuck on as a kid. In Act 2, there's this one particular section where I would constantly drown, and if I somehow managed to get out of this section, I'd immediately mess up the platforming. Nowadays, I know a neat trick where if you're going through the pipes on your way to that section, just use your momentum and jump off the pipes. You'll skip the entire thing. Whether this was intentional or not, I have no idea. But it saves me from having to do that section, even though as an adult I can easily do it. Now the boss fight. So I generally wouldn't bring up the boss fights too much, unless there's something to talk about, and there is here. You see, you're jumping on Robotnik's machine while jumping over a giant chemical death pit. If you fall in, it's instant death. Worse yet, Tails sometimes lands the final hit, causing Robotnik to drop before you're ready. And you go right into the pit. lost this fight I can't tell you how many times because of this stupid... Dadgummit, Tails! You're useful one for every section in the game except this. Outside of that, though, this zone is fantastic. This next zone is probably my favorite. I have a really hard time picking one absolute favorite in Sonic 2, but 90% of the time, it's going to be Aquatic Ruin Zone. And the music is the best track in the entire game, hands down. Just listen to it. Now this is this game's water level. But here's the thing, you can actually avoid the water completely if you're good at the game. Even though I played Sonic 2 a ton, I still occasionally end up in the water, but the design makes sure you never stay submerged for too long. And I love the aesthetic of this zone. It has this ancient, forgotten feel, kind of like Marble Zone from Sonic 1, but even more overgrown. The vines, the ruins, the water's creeping in. It really feels like time abandoned this place a long time ago. It's just an amazing zone all around. Well, here we are, Casino Night Zone, aka the moment when Sonic decided to hit Las Vegas. I don't really understand the logic behind this place, but hey, it looks like Las Vegas to me, so I guess Sonic has a gambling problem now. Whatever. The zone is basically slot machines and pinball physics. That's the core of the experience, and honestly, it's pretty cool. And the music here perfectly captures that flashy Las Vegas vibe. The bright neon lights, the bouncing physics, it's all extremely memorable. You really feel like you're stuck in a casino. All the pinball mechanics in this level are fun, chaotic, and surprisingly deep. It's definitely a standout in the Sonic 2 experience. But it's not like someone would be dumb enough to make an entire Sonic game based solely on pinball physics. Right? Right? Well, Sonic decided that while he was in the West, he might as well hit the Rocky Mountains. And thus, we get Hilltop Zone. I mean, how else do you explain it? First he's in a casino, now he's running through giant mountains, and wait, dinosaurs? Okay, a lot of people are probably really confused about the literal dinosaurs hanging around here, but I have a theory. You see, during development, the producers of Sonic 2 and Sonic CD were discussing their respective games. At some point, Sonic CD's developer found that the Sonic 2 originally had a time travel mechanic, but it got scrapped. So, what did they do? They threw the time travel concept into the CD instead. I think these dinosaurs might be remnants of that scrapped time travel plot. Maybe Hilltop Zone was originally meant to be a prehistoric zone before the idea got cut. Honestly, by looking at it, I could totally see Hilltop being a prehistoric zone. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Leave in the comments what zones you think would have been past, present, or future zones had Sonic 2 kept the time travel plot. Like, what time period do you think each zone would have been set in? I'm very interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. I have a feeling we could have some cool discussions about it. Or even check out the Discord and talk about it. Overall, the zone has some pretty good gimmicks. The music here is very It's honestly probably my least favorite track in the soundtrack. It just doesn't vibe with me, you know? Overall, Hilltop Zone is an alright zone. Next up, we have the Mystic Cave Zone, which is definitely an interesting one. Some people say it's spooky, but honestly, it just reminds me of the minecart level from Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures. And looking at the level design, it really feels like an abandoned mine. The wooden platforms, the rickety bridges, the eerie glow, you get the sense that it was once a bustling Wild West style mine, but time just left it behind. Speaking of the Wild West theme, they really missed an opportunity here. If they wanted the whole western section in the game, where's the saloon level? That would have been awesome! The music here, it's not half bad. It definitely fits the atmosphere well, and overall, the zone is just a fun time. The platforming keeps things engaging, and the whole mine aesthetic makes it stand out, compared to the more traditional Sonic environments. Next up, we have Oil Ocean Zone, which is definitely an interesting one. The music here is very Arabian-inspired, which totally fits the vibe considering a lot of the world's oil comes from that region. Now, I know a lot of people hate the zone. I personally don't. It's not hard. Sure, you can't blast through it at the speed of sound, but if you're like me and can take your time sometimes, it's not a difficult stage at all. Now, a lot of people also don't like the aesthetic of this level. Smog-filled skies, a murky ocean of petroleum. That's oil for all those that are not American or uneducated. Honestly, it really feels like an oil refinery to me. Right down to the endless elevators scattered throughout the level. And these, I think they're manhole covers that get blasted into the air with flames. I don't know why there's seahorses and octopus enemies though. That's just weird. Overall, it's not a bad zone, but it's not a great one either. Let's just say I'm not going to load the zone up too much in Sonic 2 Absolute to play alone as a standalone level. But when I play it through the game, yeah, it's not too bad. Now we get to what has to be the worst part of Sonic 2. The endgame zones. Now, Metropolis Zone, this zone just sucks, okay? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Through and through, it just sucks. You got cheap enemy placement, huge labyrinthian levels, and they brought back the 3-act structure from Sonic 1. Yup, this is the only zone in the game to have 3 acts in it, making it feel even longer. This zone isn't so horrible that I have to shut off my game console whenever I'm playing it, but it's definitely a low point of Sonic 2, which sucks because it's right there near the end. But hey, at least the music here is pretty solid. Honestly, this is probably, in my opinion, one of the weakest zones in the game. It's not horrible, but it's not frustrating. It just really slows things down and just drags on way too much. Now we get to the Sky Chase level, which is Sonic slowly riding on Tails' plane, making their way to the Wing Fortress zone. So, here's the thing. What's the deal with this music? This theme is just weirdly happy and peaceful, and it doesn't fit the theming at all. It's supposed to be leading up to an epic showdown with Dr. Robotnik, where you're going to destroy the Death Egg and save the world. But instead, Sonic's just chilling out in Tails' plane. What? Oh, and here's something that just makes absolutely zero sense. See, when you take out a robot in the air, and that animal doesn't fly, for some reason, they magically get a parachute. As if Dr. Robotnik, aka Dr. Eggman, aka the same guy stuffing all these animals into robots, actually cares about their safety. Like, sure, he'll shove them into a mechanical death machine, but he'll make sure they land gently when knocked out of the sky. I'm sure that was very high on his priorities list. So once you reach Wing Fortress, the tone shifts dramatically. The music still doesn't fit though. I don't know why, but the music here just screams American military to me. Just listen. I don't know why they put this music here, but okay. And speaking of questionable Eggman staffing choices, this place is being defended by chickens operating turrets. Yep, robot chickens operating turrets. What kind of aviation security training did they get? No idea. But apparently Eggman thought highly of their tactical capabilities. As for the level itself, Wayne Fortress Zone sucks. There are death pits everywhere, meaning one bad jump can ruin your run completely. You can skip a decent chunk of the level if you're like me and you know what you're doing, but even then, many times, one dumb mistake can send you right into the abyss. Okay, so at the end of the zone, you fight whatever this contraption is, blow it up. Eggman / Dr. Robotnik decides he's gonna book it to his rocket ship and make it to the Death Egg. Sonic gets the help of Tails. He grabs onto the rocket ship and apparently has the power to breathe in space. Because, yeah, he ends up going into orbit without a spacesuit and is just fine. Now we get to the final bosses, and these are not only some of the hardest fights in classic Sonic, or in the hardest fights in gaming period for me, but also some of the dumbest boss design choices I have ever seen. First off, you don't get a single ring. That means one hit equals instant death. The mechanics of the first fight are pretty simple, but then comes the Death Egg robot and... So can we just discuss the logic of this scene right here? Eggman, a middle-aged, fat dude who isn't exactly in peak physical condition, outruns Sonic the Hedgehog, the supposed fastest thing alive. How? The Death Egg robot here is where I die more than anywhere else in this game. If I ever lost all my lives in a Sonic 2 run after I beat it for the first time, this pretty much was it every time. Especially in the versions without save states. Even after all these years, I still struggle with this boss. The best strategy I found is if you can get behind it, just bash away. Sonic 2 Absolute actually helps a bit with this fight because of the insta-shield from Sonic 3, which has been introduced into this game, which if you time it right, you can get a lot more hits in than you normally would be able to in the original version. So, this ending. Tails must be the fastest thinking fox alive. Because Sonic blows up the Death Egg robot. And if he doesn't have the Chaos Emeralds, he will then proceed to fall towards the planet. Okay? Tails sees this, then proceeds to run to his plane, start it up, and just so you know, I was in the Civil Air Patrol. Planes aren't like cars. They're extremely complicated and take a long time to get going. He gets that plane, flies it to where Sonic is, and then catches him mid-free fall. I don't understand the logic behind this, but okay, this game is just whack when it comes to logical consistency. So, before I completely wrap up, two things I'll go over real quick is one, special stages, because I have a feeling I'm obligated to do this. So, unlike Sonic 1 where the special stages were absolute acid trips, these are actually kinda alright. You get 50 rings, you go to a checkpoint, and then you jump into the weird little sparkly thing. And then you get taken to the half pipe. I suck at these special stages, but they're not bad. I don't really play them to get the Chaos Emeralds, as I've never gotten all 7 Chaos Emeralds in Sonic 2. I just play them because they're fun. Then there is, of course, a multiplayer. There's a race mode where you can race your friends, and a co-op mode where the second player will take control of Tails. However, I should point out that I didn't get any footage of either of these because I didn't have anyone else to play with around here, so yeah, tough luck there. This was the game I played the most on my Genesis. No matter how rough things got when I was a kid, no matter how bad my childhood was, this was one of those games I could always pick up and have a good time. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of games nowadays I'd rather play over Sonic 2, but I always come back to it, at least once a year, just like I do with Sonic 1. Sometimes more, but guaranteed at least once a year annually. And in my opinion, that's why Sonic 2 is awesome. It's just fun, great gameplay, fantastic music, and honestly, I feel like I'll be coming back to this one for a long time. I'll be leaving links to our Discord in the description. If you want to chat with the Centurion Dragons team, feel free to. That thing's been pretty empty lately, so I would very much like having someone to talk to. If it's not in the description, it'll be in a comment. Yeah, let me know what you think of your thoughts of Sonic 2 in Discord or in the comments. And any memories you have with it? Your favorite zones? Literally anything. I'll be interested in hearing all about it and maybe discussing it with you. This is the Anti-Gamer Slayer, signing off.
Mega CD.
究極兵器メタルソニック、最速にして最強のライバル出現がソニックを熱く過激にする。過去へ未来へ、超音速アクションは時空をも超えた。
Sonic the Hedgehog CD from Mega CD.
So sorry about the Japanese commercial, but I could not find an American one for the life of me. So Sonic CD is an often overlooked and underrated classic Sonic game in my opinion. I played this game when I was a teenager, not when I was a kid. I had a Sega Genesis when I was a kid, however, I did not have a Sega CD. So I didn't even know that was a console, and I didn't know this game even existed. Now you're probably wondering, what the heck is a Sega CD? Well, I'll let this guy explain it for me.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? Huh? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em! Want to see more?
I know it might be hard to believe, but he's actually trying to market a gaming console, not a weapon of mass destruction. Anyway, so it was basically an add-on for the Genesis, in which his main appeal was the fact that it could have better graphics, sprite scaling, and more storage space, as well as better audio quality, as it could use Red Book audio, meaning CD quality audio instead of the weird beep boop blap bloop, aka FM sound chip that the Sega Genesis used. Sonic CD was basically the flagship title for this console. It actually has 2 different soundtracks. So, like I said, I'm not here to give you an in-depth history, but I'm going to go over it briefly. Basically, the Japanese soundtrack has this electric, funky style, and when they sent it over to America, Sega of America took one look at that and said, yeah, we hate it. So they redid almost the entire soundtrack, except for the past tracks, because they couldn't remove them because they were hard-coded into the CD. So it means these 2 soundtracks are almost completely different. We'll be comparing them throughout the video, and just spoiler alert, 90% of the time, the Japanese is better. So there are quite a few modern ways to play this game, There are the Sonic Origins collection, which I've referenced a lot when talking about Sonic, but it's easily the best way to play these classic games. There's also the mobile port, which is probably the most accessible version as it's free. So next thing we gotta talk about is the story. So, the story goes something like this. Little Planet appears over Never Lake for 1 month every year. Sonic wants to go check out Little Planet, so he runs over there and finds that Eggman has changed it to a mountain. Eggman wants to use the time stones on Little Planet to conquer time and space. Sonic doesn't like this, so he's gonna go stop him. Amy, thanks to her tarot cards, which are basically fortune cards, got a fortune reading that said she would meet her knight in shining armor on Little Planet. Sonic was not informed of this arrangement, by the way, so she goes to Little Planet and meets Sonic, and Sonic has zero interest in a relationship with her. She then gets kidnapped by Metal Sonic, in which Sonic has to save her. She's little more than a damsel in distress in this game. Don't worry, she gets better as the games go on. I should also mention that there are actually full-blown cutscenes and lyrical tracks in Sonic CD. I know, it's crazy for a game that came out in 1992. And the animations were done by Toei, the same people that did Dragon Ball Z, also did the opening and ending cutscenes for this game. So there's a different song for each opening and ending, so we'll get straight into the game and I'll compare the two right here, right now. Let's go.
Destination heaven, sail high. Now you and me, we're going to have fun. Say, lights off. Excalibur. It's about that bar. What do you mean? Give and take. Going home. Time zone. Check it out, eh? Live alone. Leather legs. Getting in place. What do you get? Say, back jet. Zoom room. Cosmic zoom. Let's go, Jay. It's Sonic Boom. Sonic Warrior. Sonic Warrior.
You always need a day. You got the power to save the day.
Take a little chance, slip on through. We got no matter what you do. You gotta do for you.
Sonic Warrior, Sonic Warrior. The power's in your mind to shake the planet to conquer time. Sonic Warrior, beat the time. Took the Sonic Warrior, flavor in mind. Nothing can stop the way to stay alive. If we try, you can do anything. Took the Sonic Warrior, always takes a chance. Took the Sonic Warrior, never sleep again. Nothing can stop the way to stay alive. If we try, you can do anything.
Now, America actually gets a point here, as Sonic Boom is way better than You Can Do Anything, in my opinion. Sorry all you can do anything fans, but this is 1 point for the American soundtrack. Now let's get to the very first zone, Palm Tree Panic. Okay, so with a name like that, you would expect it to be absolute pure chaos everywhere. But in actuality, this zone is just a chill introduction to Sonic CD's mechanics. Palm trees everywhere, yet no visible panic. Huh. Why didn't they just call it Palm Tree Walkthrough? Or how about Palm Tree Hill? That's a good zone name as well. At least it would make sense. So right off the bat, we have the Japanese versus American soundtrack debate. Again, Japan went full funky high energy beats, while America opted for a more tropical approach to emphasize the exploration. And hey, I get it, the game focuses on time travel and open-ended level design, so an atmospheric vibe made sense. But if you're like me, Japan wins this round. Now, this doesn't exactly look like your typical Sonic stage. Instead of a bunch of streamlined speedways, it's more like a giant maze. Big, open, and built for exploration. Sure, you can rush to the goal fast if you want to, but if you're hunting for the good ending, which I don't really see the point in, but it's just there for extra challenge, you have two real options. 1. Time travel. Hit a past or future sign, maintain high speed until you warp and destroy the robot generators in the past. You do this by the past signpost, by the way. And then you can travel to the future to get a good future. If you go to the future without destroying the generators or without the time stones, you get the bad future. And then there's the special stage route, which is collect 50 rings, enter the special stage at the end of the zone, and go for the time stones. We'll get into the special stages themselves later. Personally, I tend to go for the special stages, though I have not landed a good ending yet. Palm Tree Panic is pretty easy overall, great for easing players into the mechanics, but I don't have anything to say beyond that. Next zone, please. Alright, so next up we have Collision Chaos, and let me tell you, the name was 100% accurate. Unlike Palm Tree Panic, which was supposed to be panic, yet it was nowhere to be found, Collision Chaos is like Spring Yard and Casino Night fused together in a mad science lab. Bounce pads everywhere. Pinball paddles scattered like confetti. Weird spinning contraptions designed solely to launch you into oblivion? You bet. It's absolute madness. So the name makes sense. Also, Amy does show up for 5 seconds, just long enough to get kidnapped by Metal Sonic. At this point, I have to wonder, was her tarot card reading rigged? She came here looking for knight in shining armor. Instead, she found a Metal Sonic's abduction speedrun. A truly tragic misinterpretation of fate. But don't worry, Sonic will save her later. Now back to the big Sonic CD soundtrack debate. This zone just furthers the tie between Japan and America. The American soundtrack goes for a mysterious, atmospheric vibe, which makes sense given the game's focus on exploration. The Japanese soundtrack, on the other hand, leans more into pulsing electronic beats. That's hard to describe, but undeniably unique. Neither version really screams, "This is my style," but they both work for what the zone is, and as a result, we're still tied. 1 point for both, America and Japan. Now is also a good time to further explain that each time era, past, present, and future, has a different set of tracks. So the past tracks remain the same in every version of the game, because they were hard-coded into the CD itself. Unlike the other tracks, they weren't CD quality, but they were generated using the Mega CD's RF5C164 sound chip. Yes, that is very hard to say. It had an 8-channel PCM-based chip instead of the Genesis FM synth. So Sega of America couldn't just swap them out. So they stayed unchanged across the regions. Now on both soundtracks, there are 2 sets of future tracks. One for the good futures and one for the bad futures. I personally prefer the bad future tracks, since they lean into an aggressive, techno-heavy punch, where the good future tracks feel more atmospheric. Yeah, I love the bad future tracks over the good future tracks any day of the week, over each soundtrack, every zone. No contest. And yeah, that's Collision Chaos in a nutshell. Pure chaos. It's nothing too crazy, and it's not a zone I have much more to say about. So next zone. Alright, next up is Tidal Tempest, also known as the obligatory underwater level. And surprisingly, it's not a bad one. If you've ever slogged through Labyrinth Zone in Sonic 1, don't panic, this is a way more tolerable version of that. Instead of a slow-motion drowning simulator, we get an underwater ruin with some cool currents and lots of open spaces. The level's pretty light on gimmicks too. No bubble shield, so you'll still have to surface or camp out for air bubbles, but overall, it's a smooth ride and a pretty decent level. And now this is another win for the Japanese soundtrack. While the Japanese version leans heavily into the atmospheric and ambient vibes, perfectly capturing this deep underwater ruin, the American version, well, it sounds like if Streets of Rage was on the Sega CD. No joke, take a listen. I can see why some people would prefer the American version, but I like Japanese better. Not much more to say. It's an easy zone, has cool aesthetics, and both soundtracks are decent, even if Japan pulls ahead just a little bit. Now, time for the next zone. Quartz Quadrant is our next zone, and this is a zone that actually embraces Sonic's speed, with long stretches of open road, obstacle-free conveyor belts, and switch-flipping mechanics to let you control the movement of the conveyor belts. It took them long enough. If Collision Chaos was Pinball Mayhem, and Tidal Tempest was Underwater Serenity, then Quartz Quadrant is pure coffee energy drink fueled momentum, which is a nice change of pace. So this is no contest when it comes to the soundtracks. America wins easily. The American version sounds like it was composed by Jun Sonoe, even though it wasn't. And it was ripped straight out of Sonic Adventure is also what it sounds like. And that's a huge compliment on both accounts. Jun Sonoe is one of my favorite video game composers, and I love the Sonic Adventure games. Meanwhile, the Japanese version, well, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it's going for. It's an odd experimental quality that doesn't hit that well. Also, remember those caterpillar enemies from Marble Zone in Sonic 1? They're back! But they're as easy to take down as ever, so I wouldn't worry about them. As for the zone's aesthetic, it really feels like Robotnik, aka Dr. Eggman, is mining the place for the quartz. Which raises a really important question. What does he even need the quartz for? Maybe, I guess he's trying to make a countertop business? After all, evil empires don't fund themselves. I don't know, that's just a fan theory. But hey, it makes for a solid zone. I have no idea what anyone on the design team was thinking when they made this zone. Introducing Wacky Workbench, easily the most platform-heavy Sonic level in 2D history, possibly all of Sonic history. You just touched the floor. Congratulations, you're flying to the ceiling. No momentum, no control, no mercy. Collision Chaos was bad enough, but this is a whole new level of suffering. And if that wasn't enough, there are electric traps near the ceiling, which just add insult to the injury. And now we get to the question of who in the heck built this place? See, this zone exists in the past, which raises a very disturbing question. What part of evolution or natural selection created this disaster? Because Robotnik sure as hell didn't build it, he just showed up later, which means that Little Planet itself spawned this monstrosity somehow. I mean, I'm sure all the creationists out there could make an argument to, oh, look, that means something was created. Come on, we all know that's exactly what they would do if this place actually existed. All it would show, though, is whoever created this place was either incompetent or lost their freaking mind. Now for the soundtrack face-off again. Japan wins easily. The Japanese version has a cool pulsing techno pop that fits the mechanical chaos of this place perfectly. Meanwhile, the American soundtrack, I have not the slightest clue what's going on here. It's just weird. Now, can we talk about a zone that's actually awesome? Now, a lot of people might have expected an Ancient Ruin to be my favorite, but nope, Stardust Speedway is just too good. Just look at this place. Stardust cities in the background, flashing lights everywhere. The stage just resonates pure energy. Now, who on Little Planet uses Stardust Speedway? Who knows? But honestly, who cares? It's awesome. What makes it even wilder is how time travel affects it. You see, the past feels more like a post-apocalyptic future of this place. Like you went so far into the future that everything's overgrown. Bad future feels like a dystopian hellscape. Both are awesome. By the way, Japanese soundtrack wins when it comes to this place, hands down. The American version's okay, but Japan, they just got it. They got the beat. So I know I mentioned this once already, but every Bad Future track, whether it be in the American or Japanese soundtrack, is awesome. And they are some of the best tracks in the game. But special shout out goes to Stardust Speedway's Bad Future tracks, because they also serve as the boss theme for Metal Sonic, who happens to be the only competent boss in this entire game. More on that later. So here's how this fight works. The only time the normal boss theme plays is when Robotnik is firing up his laser, about ready to start the race. Yes, it is a race, not a typical boss fight. You can't actually hurt Metal Sonic. You have to race him on Stardust Speedway to the end of the track and rescue Amy. All the while, Dr. Robotnik has a giant laser. It's gonna obliterate you if you fall too far behind. It's an amazing boss fight, and both tracks fit it so well. Here, take a listen. Alright, so now after that, you free Amy, then it's on to the final zone, which is an interesting one. Now this place is pure madness, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Metallic Madness is the final zone in the game. It has pipes that launch you everywhere, weird puzzles, weird platforms, and a section where Sonic gets shrunk down like some kind of toy figurine. All that's here. Everything about this zone screams controlled chaos, making it a great final challenge before wrapping the game up. Now when it comes to Metallic Madness, Japan absolutely takes the win in the soundtrack department. The American soundtrack goes with this dark, overly serious tone, which is fine, but it lacks the same energy. Meanwhile, Japan's version is straight up amazing, even throwing in lyrics, though they're so fast you can barely hear them without a lyric video. Other tracks in the game, for the record, did have vocal samples, like Stardust Speedway's famous "Funky, Get Funky, Hustle, Hustle." But Metallic Madness just takes it a step further with actual lyrics in the song. And they actually fit. Take a listen. Yeah, I feel like I should apologize for the weird way of me showing the lyrics. I just didn't know what other way to do it, because I'm still not great at video editing. So, apologies for the weird way, but that's not the last time I'm gonna be doing it that way. As you see, the Bad Future version of Metallic Madness is actually my favorite track in the entire game, next to Sonic Boom. So, here you go. Metallic Madness, Bad Future. I mostly just want to show off how awesome this song is. I mean, it contrasts You Can Do Anything perfectly, and even though I like Sonic Boom better than I like You Can Do Anything, I still think it's just totally awesome that they, for the final level theme, made it to where Dr. Robotnik was basically saying the exact same thing, exact opposite of what Sonic was. Just listen. Now that we've covered all of the levels, before we talk about the final boss, I feel like I need to set expectations accordingly. Because, Robotnik, just look at these bosses, and please, for the love of all things logical, explain to me, what in the heck were you thinking? Now let's talk about the boss music, because this game couldn't make up its mind on that either. So the American soundtrack actually fits the mood pretty decently. I don't really like it, it's far too dark and ominous for me. But then we get to the Japanese version, which has lyrics, and Can someone explain to me how in the ever-loving heck these lyrics translate to boss fight?
Earth tree, fit, roll, rain, cold, hot, distance, little, wow. How is this? He doesn't say.
Now, for the record, I prefer the Japanese version because of how ridiculous it is. Now we can talk about the final boss and ending. Now, after everything we've been through, the chaotic zones, the awesome Metal Sonic race, and the wacky time travel mechanics, you'd expect an epic final showdown, right? Well, you saw the rest of Robotnik's contraptions, didn't you? Instead, we get a contraption that looks like someone just turned a fan on its side. And to make matters worse, it's incredibly easy. I beat this boss on my first try ever, and that's not a good sign for a final boss. The Japanese version actually gets unique music for the fight, which is what you're hearing right now. The American version, though, just recycles the standard boss theme. So after you destroy Robotnik's contraption, Amy shows up out of nowhere. I don't know where she's been since Stardust Speedway, but now we gotta get her out of here. And thus, shows the endings. Now, as much as I wish I had a Japanese footage of a non-compressed ending, I don't. So I'm gonna have to show you the original Sega CD version. However, I do have an upscaled version for the American ending. So, other than the compression in mind, you should be able to compare these pretty easily. And what ending song is better. Are we on the same page? Good. Roll endings.
star, to the light. It's a supersonic flight, gotta keep it going. Sonic boom, sonic boom. Running fast. Save the planet from disaster. Spinning through the world in motion. Take it all away. Sonic boom, sonic boom. Sonic boom, sonic boom. Sonic boom, sonic boom. Sonic
So, am I forgetting anything? Oh yeah, the special stages. So, these are awesome. So, to get the good ending, you can do one of two things. One, destroy all the robot generators in the game. This is extremely difficult. Or two, collect 50 rings and jump into the big ring at the end of a level and do a special stage. Complete the special stage, you get a time stone. Get all 7 time stones? Congratulations, you are guaranteed a good ending. Now, these special stages use the Sega CD's unique sprite scaling to great effect. It's like you're in a full 3D environment, kind of like how Mario Kart on Super Nintendo did. And the goal is simple: destroy all of the UFOs before time runs out. While some people don't like these, I personally think they're awesome. The backgrounds are awesome, and once you understand how to move around effectively, they're actually pretty easy. The real difficulty is just getting to them in the first place. And honestly, while I occasionally destroy the robot generator here and there, off the off-ball, I tend to play special stages every chance I get, just because they're awesome. So that's everything I have to say about Sonic CD. Well, except for one thing: why I like Cosmic Eternity. See, I heard this song long before I heard Sonic CD was even a game, because there was a playlist on YouTube, which I downloaded, that was 9 hours long and had every single Sonic song ever. On that playlist was Cosmic Eternity. And that's a song that just... it's a song I listen to when I need motivation, okay? Because it's just very uplifting in its lyrics. Always believe in yourself, and never give up, basically. So, yeah. That's everything I have to say about Sonic CD. It's a game you should absolutely play at least once. It is not overrated. It is an amazing game, like all the classic Sonic games. This is the Anti-Gamer Slayer of Centurion Dragon Studios, signing out, and thank you for watching all the way to the end.
Hey, come on!
Non-stop power play. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 from Mega Drive.
Sonic 3's development? Yeah, pretty much that in a nutshell. Like so many Sonic games, it was rushed. This time thanks to a sponsorship deal, which we'll dive into when we cover Sonic and Knuckles' portion of the game. But Sonic 3 alone has enough controversies surrounding Michael Jackson. Yeah, the King of Pop had a hand in this soundtrack, but we'll get into that later. Right now, you want me to talk about the game? So let's get right to it. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 picks up literally right after Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Eggman's Death Egg is completely totaled, but instead of going out in flames, the wreckage crash lands onto Angel Island, a floating landmass that was absolutely not built to handle intergalactic wreckage. So the sheer size of the Death Egg causes Angel Island, which is supposed to be high up in the sky, to plummet into the sea. Naturally, Eggman isn't one to take the L, so he gets to work rebuilding. Step 1, he manipulates Knuckles, the island's guardian, into thinking Sonic is the real villain. And Sonic and Tails roll up, ready to finish the job and destroy the Death Egg for good. Sonic goes super and flies to the island, only to get uppercutted by Knuckles immediately, and loses all the Chaos Emeralds, which Knuckles then steals, and just like that, the game kicks off. Now, I didn't actually play Sonic 3 or Sonic & Knuckles as a kid. Yes, they are two separate games, we'll get into that later. It was the one Sonic Genesis game I never had growing up. I did get my hands on an unofficial emulator years later, thanks to my brother who bought it on Amazon for 20 bucks, but the games were separate, so they weren't the same lock-on technology powerhouse they're supposed to be. And life got hectic and sucky at the time, so I never got to beat them as a kid. Fast forward to adulthood, enter Sonic 3 Air. This is the way I played the game all the way through for the first time, and it's the best way to play this game. Tons of options, enhanced visuals, smooth gameplay, you can even tweak the soundtrack. You could go with the Sonic Origins collection, but there is a reason you might want to avoid that for now. I would highly recommend the Air version. But there's a lot to break down with this game, so let's start with the first zone, Angel Island. So let's talk about Angel Island, the very first zone of the game, and oh man, what a way to kick the game off. It starts off tropical and breezy with an upbeat soundtrack by Howard Dozen. Yeah, that Howard Dozen. Remember when we talked about Comic Zone a while back? He didn't just bring grunge rock to that game, he also helped shape Sonic 3's soundtrack. Angel Island's track might not be my absolute favorite in the game, and it's also not the same style as Comic Zone with the grunge rock. It's much more of a tropical, upbeat feel. And it absolutely fits. Until the flamethrower bot shows up and lights the whole forest on fire. Yup, welcome to Sonic 3. This kind of stuff is normal. The zone's design is not as good as Emerald or Green Hill, but it still introduces the core mechanics good. And it doesn't hold your hand, so that's good as well. Oh, and Sonic 3 introduces a new move, the Insta Shield. Tap the jump button at the right moment, and Sonic flashes for a split second. That's the move. It grants brief invincibility frames and extends your attack range. But it's tricky to time and master, though it is one of the best moves in the game, if you know how to use it. Emphasis on the if you know how to use it. You then get to fight the flamethrower bot at the end of Act 1 as a mini-boss. Yeah, Act 1 has bosses now. Some of them are cool, some of them suck, and some of them are straight up hilarious. This one, though, it's definitely one of the cooler ones. And then you get to Act 2. Act 2 is where things really get crazy. When Eggman shows up with the flying battery, a giant flying battleship, and starts bombing the place trying to take out Sonic. In the original version, all you had to do was hold forward, and you would run and avoid the bombs by default because apparently he's just not fast enough. However, in air, you actually have to dodge the bombs as they fly over. You can, in the settings, turn it off to where you just do it like the original version, but I like actually having to dodge the bombs better. It's much cooler. Then you get a quick Eggman boss, take it out, free the animals from the animal capsule, and then Knuckles shows up, destroys a bridge, and sends you to the next zone. Next up is the second zone, Hydrocity. Or is it Hydro City? Honestly, I don't know if it's supposed to be one word or two. Sega has never really clarified, so take your pick. Either way, it's our obligatory water level for the game. But thankfully, it's way more tolerable than Labyrinth Zone, and definitely a step up from Tidal Tempest. Still, I'd personally take Aquatic Ruin over this one any day. Water stages go, Hydrocity actually has some pretty decent ideas. There are fans that launch you upward, currents that drag you around, and a lot of hidden paths. Like this one route here, I just discovered on this playthrough. It takes some finesse to reach, but if you can nail it, you can avoid a huge chunk of the underwater sections of the level. The zone itself is okay. It's not amazing, not awful. It's definitely one of the more mid entries in the Sonic 3 and Knuckles lineup. The music here is not really my jam. It's not bad, it just doesn't hit right with me. But that being said, keep your ears open during the mini-bosses. You see, I have the game set to where it'll play the Sonic 3 mini-boss theme when we're on the Sonic 3 part of the game, and the Sonic and Knuckles boss theme when we're on the Sonic and Knuckles part of the game. And tell me, does this track seem familiar to you? Or have a certain style? Don't worry, this is totally not foreshadowing. Now, before I mention this zone, I should probably mention that there are 3 zones I absolutely love in Sonic 3, but I can't pick one of them as my favorite. So consider them my top 3 zones. They can be swapped around in any order, really. The first one we're going to talk about is the one right here, Marble Garden. First off, can we talk about these ancient ruins? These backgrounds are gorgeous. Pillars crumbling, temples, cloudy mountain skies. It feels like you're racing through the remnants of a lost civilization. The music here absolutely nails the atmosphere. It's energetic, mysterious, and it fits the zone's tone perfectly. I just love this track. Gameplay-wise, Marble Garden introduces some fun mechanics, like these spinning saucer platforms. You run on top of them, and they spin you upward. It sounds super simple, but it's super fun. Get hit, and yeah, you'll lose them, but they're a blast to use while they last. Then there are these strange arrow-launching statue heads that give me flashbacks to Aquatic Ruin Zone in Sonic 2. The twist? You can actually disable these guys by bouncing on their gemstone, whatever that thing is lodged in their head. It's very satisfying, and certain parts of the zone are actually inaccessible until you destroy these guys, so they also kind of act like gatekeepers. The zone itself is massive. And since I have the time limit turned off in Sonic 3 Air, that means I got plenty of time to explore it and look around, without the fear of getting a time over, which is another perk to Sonic 3 Air. And story-wise, Eggman is definitely up to something. The Act 1 mini-boss is a drill bot which was digging up the ground, so he's looking for something here, and Eggman himself is in a drill machine. Now, the boss for this zone is awesome. Tails picks up Sonic and they chase Eggman through the air mid-flight. As Sonic jumps off to attack Eggman and Tails will catch him. It's a very hard boss. Not the hardest in the game, but it's very difficult. But it's also one of the most memorable. Then after Eggman is blown up, unfortunately he's not beaten yet, we gotta go to what is possibly the worst zone in the entire game. So after dark, Sonic and Tails land and are greeted by flashing lights, bouncing gimmicks, and a soundtrack that, well, we need to talk about it. You see, Michael Jackson is rumored to have worked on Sonic 3 Knuckles. Yeah, remember that mini-boss I showed you a while back, the mini-boss theme? Michael Jackson composed that, or at least that's the theory. Let me explain. So, there is no official confirmation that Michael Jackson worked on Sonic 3. However, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points that he did. For starters, almost every major release of the game had to replace certain music tracks, particularly in the last 3 levels of the Sonic 3 portion of the game. That alone raises eyebrows. Not to mention there are unofficial confirmation from Sonic Team. However, these are all unofficial, not endorsed by Sega. So why was Jackson credited? Because having him work on a game like this would have been mind-blowing and probably shot the sales into the ceiling. Well, there are 2 major theories. The first theory is the technical limitations. Jackson reportedly felt that the Sega Genesis sound chip didn't do his compositions justice. And honestly, hearing Carnival Night, yeah, I would believe it. But everything else he supposedly worked on sounds amazing. So this theory has some holes. The second one is the scandal and image protection theory. Around the time of Sonic 3's development, Jackson was facing major allegations involving abuse that sent shockwaves throughout the entertainment industry. While much of the evidence was shaky, and there was strong indications of blackmail, Sega likely distanced themselves to protect their public image. It's rumored that a non-disclosure agreement prevents anyone from officially stating he worked on it, which is a real shame. Because, here's the thing, I like to give people the absolute benefit of the doubt that I can. So, unless you show me some serious evidence that they did something wrong, I'm not likely to believe they did something wrong. Whether this is a flaw or not, I don't know. But accusations are cheap. Evidence is not. And regardless what people think, his music in Sonic 3 is amazing. Except for this track, as we'll get into. I cannot stand this track. It is one of the worst themes in the game. It's irritating, it's repetitive, and it's grating. So, you've been warned. Here is the music for Carnival Night as released. Your ear's bleeding? No? You want me to do it some more? Okay, I'll stop. But they're gonna be bleeding by the time I'm done, because in Origins, they just couldn't use the prototype versions of the songs. No, they had to have Jun Snoue, who's my favorite video game composer of all time, remix the tracks. And if you want to know why you should avoid the Origins version of the game, well, take a listen. Jun, despite you being my favorite video game composer of all time, your work here sucks. So, if you ever want to play Sonic 3, do yourself a favor, play the Sonic 3 Angel Island Revisited or Sonic 3 Air, the version I'm using, and switch the music to the Sonic 3 prototype version in the options menu. This version is infinitely better. Just take a listen. So the music isn't the only thing I hate about this zone. You see, it's like they were trying to recreate the magic of Casino Night Zone, but somehow stripped away everything that made it cool. Instead of awesome, sleek city lights and pinball mechanics, you get balloons. So many balloons. They send you bouncing in every direction in ways that feel more chaotic than helpful. The enemy designs are just weird, and nothing about this zone's aesthetic clicks. It just feels like they threw it together last minute, honestly. And then there is the dreaded Barrel of Doom. So throughout the stage, there are these barrels that, unless you knew ahead of time, you can move them up and down by jumping on them, then tapping up and down, in like this rhythmic motion. But they're not required, so it's not a big deal, and there'll be a nice little trick that you could like learn as a secret. However, then comes the infamous one, the single heinous barrel. This miserable, rage-inducing hunk of spinning red and white plastic that has trapped players for decades. Even if you're playing as an adult, I got stuck here. And why? Because this one time, the game requires you to jump, then hold up and down, tapping rhythmically to move it. That's it. That's the mechanic. You can't just jump like normal. You can't brute force your way past it. No, you have to figure out that specific interaction that is never required anywhere else in the entire game. Whose idea was this? What were they thinking? Okay, so quick rant aside. Why can't Sonic attack Knuckles when he shuts off the lights? You see it right here. I have the fire shield, and for some reason, I cannot attack Knuckles for any reason. For the life of me, I cannot attack him. Why? What invisible wall is blocking my way? So Knuckles, what is his grand strategy, by the way, for stopping you in Carnival Night Zone? Flipping a light switch and walking away. Genius. Truly. Thankfully, this nightmare of a zone is over. You then go to the end of the level, hop into a cannon, and get shot into one of my favorite zones of all time. welcome to one of the best zones in the entire game and one of my personal favorites, as well as one of the coolest. Pun entirely intended. This is easily my favorite track in the entire game, and arguably Michael Jackson's best work here. Nay, it is his best work here. Now there's a prototype version that exists, sure, but honestly, why would you listen to this? When you can listen to this. Then we have Sonic Origins and Jun Sonoe's attempt at remixing the track. Now Sonoe, most of the time you're really good at your job, but what happened? And speaking of remixes, Bentley Jones, one of my favorite artists, did an incredible version of this track called Hard Times in the Ice Cap Zone. It's got lyrics, by the way, and it's awesome. I listen to this song a lot. If you haven't checked it out, I will leave a link to it in the description. Now we get to talk about Ice Cap itself. So after the awesome snowboarding section, it drops you straight into this ice cave, which you have to pick the right paths to go forward, and sometimes even push ice blocks down to smash through walls. It's a small thing, and it's not that big of a gameplay departure, but it still gives the zone its own unique identity. Then you reach outside, and you're at this glacier, which is just as cool as everything that came before. Yes, the pun was entirely intended. In the snowy terrain, there's parts of it where there's actually piles of snow that Sonic can spin dash through and kick it up. It's such a small detail, but it's cool. So at the end of the zone, Sonic tears through, I think it's an icy glacier or snow hill, don't know, and he ends up in Launch Base. And straight off the bat, the music is pretty decent. Not Ice Cap level, but nowhere near as ear-bleeding as Carnival Night. And as expected, there's a prototype version. It's okay, but it doesn't hold a candle to Jackson's composition. And then we get to the Sonic Origins version, where Jun stepped in for the soundtrack revisions, one last time. And he did one mid-tier remix for this zone. This is the only remix he did that doesn't make me want to claw my ears out. Now, don't get me wrong for a second. Jun Senoue is my favorite video game composer of all time. Even though I'm dogging him out a lot right now, it's just that he is good with hard rock and guitar-heavy compositions. Expecting him to replicate Jackson's FM synth-based arrangements? That's not his wheelhouse. He does contribute some decent retro tracks later in the soundtrack, but they still don't hit the same heights as his usual rock compositions. Everyone has their strengths, and Jun's is not trying to force FM synth remixes where they don't belong. For the love of God, Sega, just keep this guy on the rock music. He does amazing there. Keep him out of the FM synth and save our ears. As for the zone itself, it takes place in a massive construction site where Eggman is in the middle of rebuilding the Death Egg. And you can actually see it being built in the background, which is really cool. That said, the zone itself, it's kind of forgettable. It's not bad, but it doesn't leave a strong impression on me. You get this weird little bumper launcher things that shoot you forward, alarms you can accidentally trip, and zip lines to swing around. It all works, but it doesn't hit the same heights as, say, Ice Cap or some later zones. But then we get to the bosses. As I mentioned earlier, Sonic 3 and Knuckles was originally two separate games that connected together. If you played just Sonic 3 back in the day, Big Arms was the final boss. However, once you combined both games, Big Arms was removed from Sonic's playthrough. Only Knuckles could fight it. Thankfully, Sonic 3 Air lets you toggle the option to fight Big Arms as Sonic, so naturally, I turned that feature on for the extra challenge. And while it's nowhere near as brutal as the Death Egg robot, it's still a tough fight. Before you reach Big Arms, you have to first take down two mini-bosses. First, whatever this thing is, then a tower robot. This is more of an endurance test than an actual difficult boss fight. And then once Big Arms himself appears, it's not that hard once you know what you're doing. And after you blow it up, the Death Egg starts crashing back down onto Angel Island. Oh, and one more thing. I would like to point out that the boss theme for Big Arms is absolutely awesome. I mean, just listen to this. Alright, so now that we're on our way to the Sonic and Knuckles portion of the game, now would be a great time to go into detail as to why these are two separate games and how they combine together to make one game. In short, you could mostly blame this guy. No, seriously, blame Ronald McDonald. Watch this commercial. It will explain everything.
Where do the stars of Sega Sonic 3 go when the game's over?
Sonic? Are you guys in there?
Hey, here's a hint. They're at McDonald's in the $1.99 Sonic 3 Hamburger Happy Meal. Sonic launches with a push of a button. Tails flies who knows how high. And Robotnik barely dodges disaster. There's even this sweepstakes thing where 10,000 lucky folks will win free Sonic 3 cartridges. So if you're still looking for Sonic and his friends,
I need to report a missing hedgehog.
take the kids to McDonald's, where what you want is what you get.
You see, Sega had a deal with McDonald's to promote Sonic 3 with Happy Meal toys. And as usual, the Sonic team was racing against a deadline. But there was also another problem. Genesis cartridges had limited storage, and Sonic 3 was shaping up to be way too big of a game to fit on a single cartridge. So, Sonic Team came up with a plan. Split the game into two. This allowed them to create a much larger experience while still meeting their deadline, and more importantly, keeping McDonald's happy by getting Sonic 3 out on time. A few months later, Sonic and Knuckles followed, complete with its own marketing push. Like this one.
We went to the big guy.
We laid the whole thing out for him.
We told him we had this great idea for a new game called Sonic and Knuckles.
It's Knuckles in his own game. Plus it has new technology.
Lock-on technology.
So you can play Knuckles in Sonic 2 and 3.
It's revolutionary.
He just laughed at us. So we sold the whole thing to Sega?
Who's laughing now? Batman!
Sega.
You saw, Sonic and Knuckles had lock-on technology, so you could combine it with Sonic 3 to make a full experience. It even worked with Sonic 2, and if you put Sonic and Knuckles on Sonic 2, you would actually be able to play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. Cool, right? Well, now it's time to get back to talking about video games, with our next zone and the first zone of Sonic and Knuckles. Well, welcome to Mushroom Hill Zone, the very first stage of the Sonic and Knuckles portion of the game. And surprisingly, there are no acid trips around here, just a bunch of giant fungi you can bounce off of. The biggest reveal, however, is the fact that Knuckles is alive. You can actually find his hiding spot where he pops out of. It leads to extra special stages, but we'll break those down when we actually talk about the special stages. The most interesting gimmick of the zone is how the zone gradually shifts through seasons. Early on, everything's bright and lush. But as you get closer to Eggman's weather machine, the landscape starts looking more like autumn. And then the deeper you go, the more barren and lifeless it gets. It's an interesting concept. Now, I get this zone had a lot riding on it. It had to serve as the first level of Sonic and Knuckles as a standalone game, and also function as the 7th level in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. That's not a small order. While it does its job fine, it's just kind of forgettable for me. Not bad, but not particularly exciting. Don't worry, next zone though is pretty awesome. Now this is a zone. Even if I died a lot here, Flying Battery is one of the most intense and chaotic stages in the game. And that's not a bad thing. Remember that bombing run at the end of Angel Island Zone? Yeah, this is that ship. You're now tearing apart the very battleship that lit the forest on fire. And it's glorious. I like to call this the stop hitting yourself zone, because everywhere you turn, the ship is actively destroying itself. Missiles misfire, lasers backfire, and even the Act 1 mini-boss, you beat it by making it punch itself. Seriously, Eggman, what was the plan here? Yes, I shall build a massive flying fortress to destroy Sonic, and also design it so it destroys itself in the process. He will never see it coming. So why it's not the most logically designed zone, it's a blast to play, and pretty challenging. The level is full of traps, vertical climbs, and tight timing, and the music is awesome. Just listen to this. At the end of the zone, you have to escape the ship as it explodes around you, then battle Eggman on the crumbling remains. It's an awesome finish to a zone that never stops throwing chaos your way. Interesting bit of information is Flying Battery was originally meant to come before Ice Cap Zone. The plan was for Sonic to rip a panel off the ship and use it as a snowboard to slide into the next level. The transition was scrapped, but it would have been so cool had it made it into the final game. Next stop is Sandopolis Zone. Oh boy. Okay, let's address the real mystery of Sandopolis Zone, and that's how does this island even work? On one end, we have an icy wasteland with massive glaciers. On the other, a desert. This isn't some spawning continent. Angel Island is supposed to be small. How exactly does it sustain both a frozen tundra and a scorching desert without completely breaking reality? I know, 90s video game logic, but this one really pushes it. First, let's talk about Act 1. You start outside the pyramid, making your way across sand, waterfalls, shifting dunes, and block puzzles. It's not bad per se, but it's not particularly fun either. Scorpion enemies pop up here and there, and the level itself does a decent job of setting up the ancient ruins aesthetic, which you know I like. It's just nowhere near as good as, say, Marble Garden Zone, or even Aquatic Ruin Zone from Sonic 2. Then there's the Act 1 boss, and wow, this thing is painfully stupid. So, you can't beat him in traditional sense. Hit him in the head all you want, and he won't die. Can you guess how you kill him? Well, watch this. That's right. You drown him in the sand. It's not hard. You can bash him in the head for hours and you'll get nowhere. No, you beat him by knocking him into the sand pit. I don't have any more words for this. Next act. Then comes Act 2, and things take a turn for the infuriating. You enter the pyramid and ghosts start appearing. These nuisances start small, but gradually grow more aggressive. The only way to stop them is to keep the lights on. If the torches go out, they become an actual threat. Unless, of course, you toggle the option in Sonic 3 Air that prevents them from attacking, which makes things a whole lot easier. But imagine playing this back in the Genesis days. If I had played this on my original Genesis, this would have been a nightmare. Also, this act is a maze. I got lost a lot. Ice Cap Act 1 had a little bit of a maze-like structure, but it was easily manageable. Here, it's easy just to wander around aimlessly, accidentally looping back into the same rooms over and over again. And the boss of this zone? Yeah, super easy. Just watch. Oh, we need to talk about the music too. It's not bad, but it's not memorable either. It does the job, but it won't stick with you. Next! After getting out of the boring as heck zone that was Sandopolis, you head deep underground into, well, a lava reef. Whatever that's supposed to be. But honestly, it doesn't matter. This place is awesome. Right away, the tone is shifted. This zone is fiery, intense, and packed with danger. And in certain areas, you can even spot the death egg looming in the background, which is just awesome. Then comes Act 2, which changes things dramatically. The zone becomes crystallized, and the lava cools. And it makes this crystal cavern. And it's awesome. The music here is awesome. It's the only place in the game where I noticed the difference between Act 1 and Act 2. As technically each act has its own remix of the zone theme, however, I rarely ever notice, except for here. Act 1 is this upbeat, funky rhythm. Here, take a listen. We get to Act 2, which I don't like near as much as Act 1, but it's still pretty good. It's this slowed down, almost ominous sounding track. End of Act 2, things get interesting, because we actually get to see Knuckles and Eggman working together really well. First, Knuckles knocks Sonic off what I think is a staircase into this rock formation. Oh, and then Eggman fires up the Death Egg and turns most of the rocks and crystals into lava. Then proceeds to start firing missiles at Sonic that he has to outrun. Then, at the bottom of a lava waterfall, you have to fight Eggman's new robotic mech. And you can't hurt it. But the mech's own bombs can. So, how you beat this boss is you literally wait for it to blow itself up. I'm serious. You just wait for it to blow itself up. You can't actually hurt the thing. It's even funnier because you can get a fire shield right before this boss fight, and it just makes it a complete joke. But, with that out of the way, we get to talk about another awesome zone that I really like. This is it. After all the chaos Knuckles has put Sonic through, Hidden Palace Zone finally gives us the chance to fight him. And yeah, it's super easy. But before we get into the battle, let's talk about the zone itself. Because honestly, there's not that much to say. It's incredibly short, you run around for a bit, take in the scenery, and that's about it. At least the music here is solid. It's actually pretty good. Too bad you won't hear that much of it. The biggest thing that stands out is the mural in the background. It depicts a mysterious prophecy. It seems to be foreshadowing a major battle against a golden hedgehog and a giant monster. What exactly is it teasing? It's either a warning about Eggman's next big scheme, or it's hinting at the villain of the next game. I'm 95% sure it's setting up for the next game, and my fan theory is it's a prophecy of chaos in the final battle between Super Sonic and Chaos at the end of the next Sonic game, Sonic Adventure. At least that's what I choose to believe. Then comes the big twist. Eggman betrays Knuckles. Turns out Knuckles was guarding the Master Emerald the whole time, just in case you weren't paying attention. And that's exactly what Eggman has been searching for. See, that's why he was digging in Marble Garden and in Lava Reef. He was trying to dig up Hidden Palace and find it. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't just ask Knuckles where the emerald was, because you think a guy with a 300 IQ could simply trick this idiot into showing him the location of the Master Emerald? I mean, seriously, it can't be that hard. Knuckles, of course, tries to stop Eggman, but he fails. And for the first time, he realized he's been tricked. Defeated but determined, he teams up with Sonic and Tails and leads them to the next zone. That being Sky Sanctuary. It's only one act, like Hidden Palace, but it is completely awesome. First, we witness the Death Egg launch into space. Knuckles helps you out by activating a bridge. However, he's too weak to continue, so it's up to you and Tails to finish the job. You have to run as fast as possible and try to reach the Death Egg before it escapes into orbit. Throughout the zone, you will encounter a Metal Sonic type robot called Mecha Sonic, and he reuses 2 boss fights from previous Genesis games. First is the Wrecking Ball from Sonic 1. It's a nod to the very first boss in the entire Genesis trilogy. Then you get the weird little balloon pod from Sonic 2. It's slightly trickier, but it's still perfectly manageable. Then you get a one-on-one fight with him, which is also very easy if you know how to use the Insta-Shield. Overall, he's not that hard, but take note, he doesn't blow up and die at the end. That'll be important later. As another really cool detail in Sonic 3 Air, you can actually enable an option that plays the original boss music from each respective game as you fight. It's a small but really cool detail. Speaking of music, Sky Sanctuary's theme is fantastic. It fits the ancient ruin and sky floating's aesthetic perfectly. Here, take a listen. As for the level itself, I really like the aesthetic, the floating ruins, and I just love ancient ruins. We all know this. You jump across crumbling platforms, grab onto weird vine-like structures, and the only enemies here are Mecha Sonic and the Egg Robos, which Eggman releases from the Death Egg at the start of the level. Overall, gameplay-wise and aesthetic-wise, it's really fun. And it leads into the game's final zone. I hope you're ready. So here we are, Death Egg Zone, and I gotta hand it to the game. Compared to Sonic 2, where the Death Egg lasted all of 2 seconds before throwing you into a boss rush with 0 rings, Sonic & Knuckles actually gives you a full-blown 2-act level. So it has plenty of extra real estate. Act 1 takes place inside the Death Egg, surrounded by shifting gravity panels, conveyor belts, and enough mechanical hazards to make your head spin off. It's brutal, no question. The challenge curve here is extremely steep, and it demands you to focus and pay attention unlike any other zone in the game. This is not a zone I revisit unless I'm in a playthrough, but I definitely respect it. It's one of those beat it once and don't touch it again until you do another playthrough of the game kind of zones. Act 2 flips the script completely. You move to the outside of the Death Egg, and suddenly you're platforming through the stars with the planet looming below, and it's an absolutely beautiful and awesome visual. Honestly, this whole place gives me major Death Star vibes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the parallel was no accident.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
The sense of scale in this level is massive, and overall, if it wasn't so brutal, I would probably like it a lot more. It's just so hard that I hardly ever revisit it. As for the music, it's perfectly serviceable. Nothing that sticks in your head quite like Ice Cap or Flying Battery, but it does its job very well of preparing you for the final confrontation and setting the stage for this technological marvel of a death machine. So now we get to the final boss gauntlet, and first you have this weird little robot that drops, I don't know what to call these things, drone bombs? All you have to do is swap the gravity and hit it with its own bombs until eventually it takes itself out. Super easy. Then comes the real fight. And you've got exactly one chance to keep your rings. If you made it here without dying in the gravity bot, which, let's face it, who died in the gravity bot? Congratulations, you get to face Eggman's final mech with little cushion. If not, well, tough, you're starting the boss with 0 rings, just like old times. Phase 1 is just that bizarre hand clamp robot from Lava Reef, but this time, you can actually see the robot in the background. The hands come down and try to crush you, but joke's on them. Just spin dash in place, and you'll shred through those arms without even moving. Then comes Phase 2, and oh boy, this part always wrecks me every time I play it. You have to have super precise platforming. Fire jets out of his nose, and there's instant death pit right behind you. It's a gauntlet, and the stakes are sky high. The only way I've found to consistently dodge the Master Emerald laser, by the way, is to jump upon the Master Emerald, that is the place where you damage it, at just the right time so you'll bounce back and dodge the laser. And yes, that's also how you damage the mech. But just so you know, if you miss it by a single pixel, into the death pit with you. Finally, after narrowly surviving all of that, Eggman makes one last bolt with the Master Emerald, and you get a chase sequence to finish off the fight. This boss is actually pretty easy, because Eggman doesn't attack you. The only danger here is falling off the back edge, which, as long as you're halfway competent with Sonic's controls, isn't gonna happen. I beat this on my first try. Now, if only that were the true final boss. You see, in order to fight the true final boss, you need all 7 Chaos Emeralds. And if you want to see the true ending, you need all 7 Super Emeralds. Needless to say, I have never seen the true ending, but I have fought the final boss before. It's a stupid requirement, I know. And if you want to know why, well, let me explain the special stages to you. I feel like now would be as good a time as ever to talk about the special stages. You see, that's how you get the Chaos Emeralds in this game. Apparently when Knuckles stole all the Chaos Emeralds, he threw them in these special stages. Don't know how or why, but that's what he did. Now, unlike Sonic 2, where you access the special stages by hitting checkpoints with 50 rings, Sonic 3 and Knuckles switches things up a bit. This time, you hunt down giant golden rings hidden throughout the level. Jump into one and boom, you're launched into a fully 3D special stage. Now these stages, to me, in my mind, feel like they're probably prototypes for what would have been Sonic 3 originally. You see, Sonic 3 was gonna be a 3D platformer with an isometric view. Look, I can't pronounce the word for the life of me, but think of Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo. But due to the hardware limitations of the Genesis, it was scrapped. Though there was a Sonic 3D Blast on the Saturn and Genesis, it wasn't that good of a game, and we'll talk about it someday. But today we're talking about Sonic 3. Once inside, your job is simple. In theory, collect all the blue spears and avoid the red ones. Seems simple, right? Problem. The longer you're in here, the faster you go. What starts as you going for a simple jog turns to Sonic going super speed, and you barely being able to tell where you're going. It's brutal, and if you touch one red spear, guess what? You can't just hop back into that ring. You gotta find another one somewhere in the level. It is hard. Now, as for how much I like these special stages in particular, they don't hold a candle to CDs. Sonic CD still has the best special stages in my opinion. Now, Sonic 3 and Knuckles land somewhere in the middle. They're nowhere near as bad as Sonic 1's acid trips, but they're nowhere near the quality of CD. In the end, I can tolerate them, but that's about it. That is until you get to the Super Emerald stages. You see, the Golden Rings and the Chaos Emeralds, they only happen in the first half of the game. You see, when you get to the second half, you can find rainbow rings. And you lose your Chaos Emeralds, but get the ability to win them back as Super Emeralds, empowered by the Master Emerald. Sounds cool, right? Well, guess what? These special stages are complete and utter bullshit! I hate the Super Emerald stages. They are the absolute worst special stages in all of Classic Sonic. Okay, that rant is done. Move on, I'd like to point out that Jun Sonoe, my favorite video game composer of all time, actually composed the special stage theme. Nowhere near his best work, but it's still pretty okay. Now I think would be a good time to mention that there are many games in this game that you can access the same way you would access the special stages in Sonic 2. I don't know the exact ring requirements. I think it's 20. You go to a checkpoint, go past it, and then jump into the sparkly things. There are 3 of them. And other than the slot machine one, I have no idea how to describe these, so I'm just gonna show them to you. And yeah, they're okay. You can get elemental shields in some of them, and bonus rings. But other than that, there's not really a reason to come here. They're okay, but not something I stop and do that often. I do like the slot machine one though. That one's actually pretty fun sometimes. Okay, so now that we're done talking about the special stages and minigames, let's talk about the true final boss. You only need the 7 Chaos Emeralds to access it. You do not need the Super Emeralds. The Super Emeralds only get you a special ending. And I am not gonna put myself through all the pain of gathering all 7 Super Emeralds just for a special ending. Sorry. But I will do the boss. So, let's talk about it. So, you fight the final boss in the place known as Doomsday Zone. And it's not a normal stage. This is the very first supersonic final boss in the entire series. You fly through an asteroid field as supersonic, and the first phase has you collecting rings to stay alive as you pursue Eggman and the stolen Master Emerald. So phase 2 is when you catch up to Eggman's whatever this mech or ship is, and how you damage it is you trick the missiles he fires at you into hitting his head as they home in on you. It's really not that hard, and it's kind of funny because it almost feels like a callback to the flying battery mini-boss. Just make it hit itself. Then, most of his mech explodes and you enter phase 3, where you have to chase him down and just smash into his ship whenever you get close enough. There's actually rings in this section, so there's nowhere near as big of a danger as running out of rings as there is in the previous phase. And this is probably the easiest part of the entire fight. Blow up his mech, retrieve the Master Emerald, and if you have the Super Emerald, you will return it to Knuckles. If you don't, well, it just falls to the ground, and I'm hoping Knuckles will eventually retrieve it out of the ocean. And with that, cue credits. Now, I may not be able to show you the true ending because I don't have the Super Emeralds, but Origins has a very fitting and humorous ending, so I'll show you that instead. Oh, and I completely forgot to mention the music for Doomsday Zone. This is the very first Supersonic final boss track, and it's just okay. Later games have way better final boss tracks. This one, yeah. It could have been better. I mean, Big Arms' theme is way better, but it's not horrible, and it's serviceable. So now that I've done Sonic's story, what do I think of it? Well, it was pretty good. Easily the longest campaign in any classic Sonic game. It had plenty of highs and very few lows. My top 3 zones, which I constantly replay in Sonic 3 Air's level select, are Marble Garden, Ice Cap, and Lava Reef. They are tied across all categories: gameplay, exploration, and music. And of course, aesthetic. And meanwhile, the worst zone is easily Carnival Night. I just don't like this zone. The rest are just mid. Not bad, but not great either. Unfortunately, I'm not done yet. I still got 2 more characters to talk about. That being Knuckles and Tails. See, there's 3 separate story campaigns, and each playable character gets one. We just covered all of Sonic's campaign, and he has the Instant Shield, as we discussed, as well as the Elemental Shields. Now, I already explained these in my Sonic 1 review. However, I feel like I probably should go over them one more time to make sure we're all on the same page here. The Bubble Shield lets Sonic breathe underwater and bounce when pressing jump. The Thunder Shield attracts rings and grants a double jump. The Fire Shield grants fire immunity and lets Sonic dash through the air. You're probably wondering why I thought to bring this up over an hour into the video. Well, it's because the other characters don't get these abilities. You see, they can still collect them and they'll still provide protection, but they don't get the double jump or the bounce or the fire dash. However, the Thunder Shield does still attract rings, so that's cool. Alright, so first let's talk about Tails' campaign. It's basically just Sonic's story with one major difference. He can fly instead of using the Insta-Shield, or gaining special abilities from the Elemental Shields, and he relies on his flight ability, which completely changes how you approach each zone. I tested him out in some of my favorite levels, and it was a totally different experience. You have to play with an entirely new mindset. Platforming sections that are tricky with Sonic are trivial with Tails, and there are all kinds of new paths and secrets I didn't even know existed until I started flying around with Tails. Honestly, that's the biggest draw playing as Tails, the exploration. You can reach all kinds of places that Sonic and Knuckles never could. There's only one real downside, and that's he can't go super unless he collects all the Super Emeralds. So yeah, you have to put yourself through the extra challenge if you want that transformation, which kinda sucks, but is understandable when everything else is so easy. Other than that, there's nothing really to say about Tails. Okay, so originally I had a whole section of the video dedicated just to Knuckles, his story, and how his levels were remixed, and the difference between his levels and Sonic's levels. However, that was a really long section of the video, and this video is already over an hour long. So if you guys want a Knuckles story video, just leave a comment down below, and if I get enough of them, I'll do a whole video solely on Knuckles' story. However, here is a streamlined version and cut down drastically to give you the basic rundown. So to start, Knuckles' story actually takes place after Sonic's. See, he's just enjoying some well-earned downtime, having a nice afternoon, until an egg robo shows up, drops a bomb in front of him, and completely ruins his afternoon. Naturally, Knuckles does what anyone would do in this situation. Proceeds to hunt that robot down all across his island with a vengeance so he can kick his teeth in. So Knuckles' story is way different than Sonic's. For one, he gets his own unique level layouts. Entire areas built specifically for his gliding and wall climbing abilities. Yeah, Knuckles can glide and climb walls. There are even sections that only he can access, making the campaign feel like a remix of the game, in my opinion. It's a lot more distinctive than Tails, who just gets a reskin of Sonic's campaign. Now, the coolest part about Knuckles' story, in my opinion, is how it directly ties into Sonic's story. Remember how Mecha Sonic didn't actually explode at the end of Sky Sanctuary? Yeah, turns out he's still alive. You see, Mecha Sonic is actually the main villain of Knuckles' campaign. The Egg Robo appears to be working for him and captures Knuckles and brings him to Mecha Sonic. And how does Mecha Sonic thank the Egg Robo for this? Oh, by killing him, of course! Now, Knuckles, who is understandably very mad that he didn't get to take out the Egg Robo himself, is now gonna take all of his pent-up rage and use it to tear apart Mecha Sonic. Final boss fight is actually really cool. After a brief brawl, Mecha Sonic goes super by tapping into the Master Emerald's power. Cause apparently Mecha Sonic stole it at some point. Yeah, Knuckles really needs a guard dog or state-of-the-art security system or something to keep stuff like this from happening. I mean, it's not the last time the Master Emerald gets stolen. Believe me on that. So, what do I think of Knuckles' campaign overall? Well, I don't like it that much. Look, those that are a fan of this campaign, don't take offense to this, but I really didn't like it. Just at all, and I didn't really have that much fun with it. Mostly because of how difficult it was. I will always choose to play Sonic's campaign every single time whenever I replay Sonic 3 Air. Unless I have to do it for a video or something, I'm probably never, ever, ever again gonna touch Knuckles' campaign. So, did I like Sonic 3 and Knuckles? Well, as you all know, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I never really got to play this game as a kid. I never had it on my original Genesis, so there's zero nostalgia clouding my judgment. And, with that in mind, yeah, I really like it. It's not perfect, there are flaws, weird level spikes, and some odd design choices here and there, and very, very questionable music, but also some badass music. But it's still a Sonic game at heart. It's fast, it's fun, and even without childhood memories, it's an amazing game. I would like to point out right now, though, that I prefer Sonic 2 over Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but I will definitely be coming back to this game and revisiting it. Sonic 3 Knuckles is just that good. And with that, I think I should be wrapping up. As a YouTuber, I am obligated to ask you to like and subscribe. And if you want to chat with the members of Saturnian Dragon Studios, well, there should be a Discord link in the description. If YouTube won't let me put it there, I'll put it in a YouTube comment in the comment section. And with that, the Anti-Gamer Slayer is out!